Hello, and welcome to the Feeling Good podcast, where you can learn powerful techniques to change the way you feel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski, and joining me here in the Murrieta studio is Dr. David Burns. Dr. David Burns is a pioneer in the development of cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of the new TEAM therapy. He is the author of Feeling Good, which has sold over 5 million copies in the United States and has been translated into over 30 languages. David is currently an emeritus adjunct professor of clinical psychiatry at Stanford University School of Medicine.
Hello, Rhonda.
Hello, David.
Hello, Taylor.
Hey, David.
And
Rhonda, sorry.
That's okay. Oh, yeah, that's okay. I already know how meaningless I am.
No, you're
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So, hey, so we're going to do another Corona cast, and today we're focusing on how the coronavirus is affecting families, and that's why we've invited the magnificent Taylor Chesney, who's the director of the Feeling Good Institute of New York, or as she said, NYC.
And Taylor is a fabulous therapist and teacher. She's part of the TEAM-CBT family, but is unique in working with children using the new TEAM-CBT techniques. But Taylor is also in the unique position that her husband, Gregg, is a physician, and he does emergency room work in New York City and intensive care unit work in New York City. And since these days, that is a tremendously treacherous and courageous kind of work to be pursuing, but puts tremendous pressure not only on Gregg having to face the possibility of picking up the coronavirus every single day, but also the concern for Taylor. And so we thought we would talk a little bit about, families who have loved ones. So that wouldn't have to even be an emergency room physician. It could be a mail carrier or, someone who has to be out and about in this very high risk era.
Right. Let's start with reading one. Is that all right with you if we start reading one of the really great emails that we've gotten about these Corona podcasts?
Yes, and thank you, all of you. I'm getting daily. I've got a whole stack of beautiful statements from people, but we're just going to read one.
This is from Lizzie, and she wrote, I just listened to your second Corona podcast, and I just really enjoyed how many distortions you found, and then how you did the positive reframing. It really helped me recognize distortions in my thoughts that I hadn't realized before, and then I could see what beautiful things they show about me, and I already feel much better. Thank you. I absolutely love the podcast, and I'm so grateful for your work.
We thank you, Lizzie, for those kind words. That's the kind of thing that we're hoping for. And maybe one of these days we'll have some polls that people can take, surveys after specific podcasts, and see what your thoughts are, what you like, what you didn't like, and also if it did have an uplift on your mood. And just to remind everybody of the basic idea behind cognitive therapy, although what we're doing now is, kind of more advanced than just cognitive therapy, but still a lot of the ideas of cognitive therapy are tremendously powerful. And that's that it isn't true that all negative feelings are bad. For every negative feeling, there's a healthy version and an unhealthy version. For example, you can have some healthy fear now in this time of threat from the corona pandemic. You can also have neurotic anxiety. You can have healthy sadness, but you can also have clinical depression. So there's a healthy and unhealthy version of every feeling. All feelings are created by thoughts, but feelings like depression and anxiety are always caused by thoughts that are distorted and unrealistic, contain distortions like all or nothing thinking and fortune telling and emotional reasoning, magnification, self-blame, and so forth. And when you change the way you think, you can change the way you feel. And so there's never been a time when it was more important to have tools like this available when there's an external threat. It's still true that your emotions will result from the way you think, from your interpretations. And if you're suffering excessively and struggling intensely, then we can do a great deal to help you change the way you think and feel.
That's great. Taylor, can you tell us a little bit about what's life like for you?
Sure, absolutely. Life is really tough right now. It's really emotional and a lot of ups and downs. And I'd say probably 80%, maybe that's a little high, 75% of the time I'm okay. And I'd say 100% of that time I'm only okay because of the work that I've done with David and what I've learned from David. I've been really proud of myself for like the mental strength that I've had to support Gregg, support my kids, be there for my patients in the ways that I can. And I'm tearing up as I say this because 25% of the time I'm not okay. Like it's terrifying. And I think some of the sadness and fear is real. And some of it is based on how I'm thinking about it and what I choose to tell myself. And when I'm with my kids from 6 a.m. till 7 o'clock at night, I feel like I'm okay. And I can kind of talk myself through feeling better about this. And then when I have moments at night, it's just terrifying.
So sad to hear what you're saying. You just have moments of sheer terror at night, and that 75% of the time you're doing okay and you're proud of yourself and you're with your kids, but 25% of the time it can be overwhelming. Tell us more about what you're thinking and feeling, Taylor, when you're experiencing the sheer terror at night.
I worry my husband will die. I know he's already intubated several of his colleagues, so it feels like a real threat. I worry my kids won't have a father, and I won't have a husband. And those feel less true. I worry how long this will go on for and how much I can handle being at home alone with my kids, not getting out, and trying to see patients at night and just kind of supporting a lot of people. So I think those thoughts feel really overwhelming at night. A lot of the uncertainty of knowing how long this could go on for.
Is Gregg living at home?
No, we made a difficult decision. I think now it's 2 weeks ago or a while ago. We're so lucky that his mother has a studio apartment around the corner. So he moved in there maybe even 3 weeks ago, like before it got bad. We sort of just said that he needed time to sleep and rest in between shifts. He had some crazy swing of like 14 days of working in a row. And I just thought it was really important, not even worried about like getting our family sick, but just that he really needed time to sleep and take care of himself and learn about coronavirus and be the best doctor he can be. So at that point, he moved out, but he was still coming back. So we just thought like it would be good for him to have a place to go after his shifts to kind of decontaminate, get his mind together. He was on a wacky sleep schedule. So at that point, he was still coming home. But I think I've lost track of time, but I think now it's probably been day 10. Maybe I think this weekend will be 14 days that we haven't seen him. We did a social distancing walk with him last weekend or sometime last week. It's hard to even keep track of time, where we just wanted to see him and connect with him, but it was really challenging for the kids and for him too, and for everyone.
So sad.
Yeah.
It must have been really challenging. I think I'm just imagining you being on that walk with your kids and them wanting to run up and get picked up and get held by him, and how hard it must have been for him to ignore that or even actively stop it.
Yeah, I remember someone, there weren't a lot of people out on the streets, and my kids were young enough that I could still strap them all into a stroller. So luckily they were strapped into the stroller. At that point, we still had our dog with us, so I was walking the dog too. And I remember there was a stranger on the street that just saw him in his scrubs walking to work and kind of just knew what we were going through. And it was really hard.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds so difficult to have your husband gone in a different location. He can't support you in the evenings when you're terrified. He's probably I'm guessing he's one of your best friends, and he's who you turn to talk all this stuff out.
Yep. And he's terrified too, so we're both going through it.
And you said he's already intubated several of his colleagues, so he must be concerned about what's going to happen to him as you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also said you were worried about or thinking about, that when's the end of this going to be? Like, when will you be able to be a family again?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I think it's been like 3 weeks and I felt good for most of it, but I think kind of reality is setting in. And if someone could tell me like in 3 weeks, this will be done, it would definitely feel like, okay, that's going to suck, but we got this. Like, I don't know. It seems there's just so much unknown that makes it really challenging.
Yeah. And even though you said you could talk back to the thought, you have really terrifying thoughts about your kids not having a dad and you not having a husband. It's just so hard to imagine that.
Yeah. A lot of the times I just, part of the time I lie to myself, and part of the time I do believe like there is a good chance he'll be fine. But the threat feels real. Mm-hmm. And he's such a great father, so kids would really miss out on him.
Do you have, I guess you're doing your clinical work from home via Zoom?
Yep. Yeah.
And then is there anyone you're getting emotional support from, Taylor?
Yeah. The folks at Feeling Good Institute in California have been super supportive of me. I've spoken to them a lot, and they've really been a great support for me. My friends have been wonderful and supportive, sending food and just calling it, checking in.
Who have you been? Oh, go just let the tears flow there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone's suffering from this. It's terrible and it's awful. It would be easier if my husband was home with me.
Yeah.
Who have you been in touch with at the Feeling Good Institute in California?
Yeah. Angela and Jill. I've had many phone calls with Jill. Love it. And Maor has really been there for me a tremendous amount. So I'm really grateful to them. We've done a bunch of group happy hours and supported each other. And so, I don't want to be the downer at the party, right? Like, we were having fun and enjoying time together. And that it just stands out to me. I did a survey because I was grappling with Gregg moving out, and if it was the right decision to say that we had to keep our distance from him. Just kind of felt like we were kicking him out.
Mm. So sad.
But I felt like I had to make sure that our kids stayed safe, that I stayed safe so I could be there for them. But he really needs us too. He's at war. And I think he's struggling, suffering, not having us around.
Because you provide him with as much support as he provides you. And it must be so lonely for him.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
He's terrified.
Yeah. And lonely for you too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so hard to hear, Taylor, how hard it's been.
When you're feeling down, and dwelling on these things that come into your mind, like now, how down and depressed do you get to feeling between 0 and 100?
Right now, in these moments, 100%. I think it just feels so awful.
And how 100 is about the most severe a human being can experience, and it's probably almost impossible for people to comprehend how intense that is. How anxious do you feel?
In those moments, 100%. Like, I'm not an anxious person, and when I think about this, my whole body shakes. It just feels so overwhelming.
And this may seem like a ridiculous question, but do you feel any guilt or shame?
I don't. I feel bad, but not, I know that's in the guilty, remorseful, ashamed category, but I don't feel guilt or remorse. I kind of feel just really bad.
Bad, and how bad between 0 and 100?
Probably that's less, like 50%.
50%. And then any inadequacy or inferiority or anything like that?
No, I feel like I feel proud of myself. Like, I feel like I'm doing a good job with the best I can.
Right. How do you feel? Alone, lonely?
I feel lonely, alone, and abandoned.
And how strong is that?
Probably 90.
Yeah. Any, again, this one's probably off, but embarrassed, self-conscious, humiliated, anything like that?
Not really, no.
Hopeless, discouraged, demoralized.
Yep, all of those: hopeless, discouraged, pessimistic, despairing.
And how strong is that?
90.
Any frustration?
Yeah, frustrated, stuck, thwarted, defeated.
How strong is that?
100%.
And how about the anger cluster?
Angry, mad, resentful, annoyed, irritated, upset, furious. 100%.
100%. Any other feelings?
I think that's
not enough. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got some humor.
Yeah, there's a lot of humor, and there's a lot of dark moments too.
Yeah, dark. And then when you get into these dark moments, how long do they last? Like 30 minutes or an hour?
Yeah, listen, I'm luckily able to kind of like pull it back. I feel like I just need to cry once a day and kind of get it out. Probably not more than 20 minutes, half hour.
Okay.
I have a really great support system and friends that have checked in. So I feel like I'm able to get it out in little spurts. Then it kind of creeps up on me.
Yeah. This is, for me, it presents a much more vivid picture of what you and probably a lot of other people are going through. I haven't been out of the house for 3 weeks. And Well, it's actually pretty nice here. I go out and jog once a day. I see very few people jogging on the path, and but I went downtown to Los Altos to check the mail because I've got a PO box, and I was sure it was crammed with stuff. I was scared, so I put on a mask and wore rubber gloves. But I just had to sneak in the back door of the post office, open the box, pull out the mail. I didn't know whether or not to touch the mail, but it was stuffed with stuff, and then came home. But as I was driving around, it looked halfway normal there. There a lot of shops were open. There weren't as many cars, but there were still a lot of people driving around, and the occasional person walking their dog and stuff. And but when I talk to you, I get the picture like of the Civil War or World War I or World War II or something, that that your husband is out there, fighting with bullets zinging around every day, and you're like a wife wondering if you're going to turn into a widow or what's going to happen, and it's just terrifying, and just clear, how much you love Gregg and you love your family, and does he ever express regret at his current career situation, or?
No, he is such a passionate doctor. He loves medicine. He's so curious. He's such a, wonderful, committed doctor. His patients are so lucky to have him. I've had the thoughts that, like, I wish he could just quit, and I've told him, and I would work extra hours. I'm fortunate now that I work 2 days a week, teach 1 day a week.
Yeah.
It's a really good institute. And I'm home with the kids on the others, and I just want to save him from this and run away and keep our family safe. But he's so committed. Him and his colleagues are superheroes. And I sent you guys those pictures of my kids. We made shirts. My daddy is a superhero.
Oh,
They really are. They really are.
Well, this probably sound like well, let me just say, I feel so close to you and so sad, and just horrible what you're confronting and what Gregg is confronting. To what extent would you say that we're getting you and kind of understanding how you're thinking and feeling?
Yeah, I think you're getting it fairly well.
Is there anything that we're not kind of quite tuned in on yet?
I think the part that I haven't spoken that much about that's most difficult is sort of knowing and figuring out, like, I've just assumed that, like, we're hunkering down, staying in the apartment, not going anywhere. And those decisions are really hard to make, right? Like, I'm sure we could go for walks. I'm sure there's things that we can do that might make our life a little bit easier. We have a wonderful nanny who isn't coming in because we want to make sure she stays safe. So that's a big disruption to our family as well. I love my parents, and they live 7 blocks away, and we don't see them because we want to keep them safe. So I guess, like, the isolation and we have a nice apartment, but there's not a lot of room for 3 kids to run around. So just kind of like the day in and day out, and trying to homeschool the kids. My oldest is in kindergarten, and his teacher is wonderful in supporting kind of what we're going through. But obviously, I want him to get some academics and some learning time. My daughter is in, like, a 3 program at a local nursery school, and then my son, my youngest, has early intervention services. He's doing great, but he had some delays, and so we meet daily with his therapists online to kind of support him in that way. So,
how old is the oldest one?
6.
6. Oh, I see. so a lot of the stress is just being cooped up in, New York. All the apartments are small, and
Yeah.
you've got 3 kids, and that's a burden. You can get cabin fever, and then having to
Yeah.
make decisions like, could we go for a walk, and is that safe? And then telling the nanny she doesn't have to come in, and your parents are only 7 blocks away, but you feel like you can't go and hug them, and you can't go and see them,
Right.
because you want them to be wanting to be safe. Do you and the kids get on each other's nerves at times? I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't.
Yeah, yeah, they surely do. They're really great together. They really do help a lot and are there for each other. I think it would be harder if they didn't have each other to entertain each other, but they definitely get on each other's nerves at times and all want a piece of mommy. And there's not room for we found out there is room for all 3 of them on my lap, but not in the exact way that they would like to be arranged at the exact moment that they would like to. So there's a lot to juggle.
And it sounds like too, you're juggling, 3 kids under the age of 6 and trying to meet their academic. You were just talking about cuddling with all 3 of them at the same time and getting them on your lap. So their emotional needs, but also their academic and intellectual needs, and getting your kindergartner, his academic needs, your preschooler, and then your youngest still in contact with his therapist. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, it is a lot to juggle. The academic, I think all parents are struggling with how to manage time at home, and I've just found that it's, at this point, the most I can do is kind of love them and entertain them and hang out with them and try to create experiences rather than, I think the teachers are wonderful and doing a great job, but if the worst thing that comes out of this is that he hasn't finished all his assignments, I'll feel excited.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You're saying to lower your expectations a little bit, and
yeah,
just to hang out with them and love them and give them some entertainment and keep them busy might be sufficient.
Yep.
I'm trying to find out if how to think about what's happening, if there's something here that you want or need some help with, because we got these different classifications of help, but one of them is which sound weird, but is the non-problem, where someone doesn't need any fancy therapy and just needs a little warmth and love and support and good listening. This could very well fall into that category, but on the other hand, there may be something there that you'd be wanting maybe to work on or wanting to get some help with, because we do have powerful tools.
Yeah. I mean, I wrote down a specific moment in time where I'm struggling and I have tons of negative thoughts, and I would say even in the moments where I'm not struggling, it's really largely only because I'm aware of my negative thoughts and am able to talk back to them. I know it's something my patients ask me about all the time. They're like, how are you managing this? Or like, what tools and techniques are you using? And the same tools and techniques that I teach my patients are the ones that I'm using, and that's 75% of the time where I'm feeling good. But I have a lot of thoughts.
Well, tell us some of them, and I'll write them down here too, and then we'll see what we can do. We know your emotions already, and the upsetting event at the top. What time is that? Like right now, for example, is the upsetting time, or?
It's not right now. I mean, but it is right now. But the one that I wrote about was last night, worrying about Gregg before falling asleep and worrying that he'll die of coronavirus.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm writing that down before going to sleep. And we know all the emotions. We've done that already.
Right.
And then what were some of the thoughts going across your mind? By the way, I had an Uncle Blaine. This has popped into my mind. It was my mother's brother. She had 2 brothers, Uncle Dean, I was named after Dean. That's my middle name, Dean, and Uncle Blaine. And her Uncle Dean died in World War II in an airplane crash. He was a navigator or something. They were on a trial flight and something happened. And then my Uncle Blaine died of pneumonia. And that, I think that's really what the coronavirus is creating, right? It's pneumonia, a viral pneumonia. I don't know, that just crossed my mind. So what were your thoughts?
My thoughts were, I shouldn't have to do this alone.
Okay.
I can't handle parenting alone.
Okay, just slow down. I shouldn't have to do this alone. I can't
handle parenting alone.
I
shouldn't burden him, which relates to like the next thought.
The 3 is I shouldn't burden him?
Yeah, meaning like the next one is I shouldn't share my feelings.
Oh, I see, yeah. Oh, yeah. Are you feeling that now too?
I mean, I've shared my feelings and it still feels a little bit wrong. Like, I feel like part of me feels like I need to be strong. So I guess.
Okay, so 5 would be I need to be strong.
I need to be strong.
See, I'm so glad that we're doing this because I just think 90% of people would say, oh, this is real, and so there's nothing that can be done. I don't know if you've listened to the podcast, but I remember I think one of my favorites and a lot of other was the podcast with Marilyn Coffey.
Right.
And right after she received a diagnosis of stage 4 lung cancer.
Yep.
And you think, oh, well, nothing can be done. And yet there was so much. She called me the other day, Rhonda. I haven't seen her for about a month or so. And I was tied up. And I said, I'll get right back to you. And then I've been emailing her and I haven't heard back from her. I'm dying to see how she's doing.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how she's doing. She's a sweetheart.
Yes. She does a lot of posting on Facebook.
Oh, she does. I didn't. I don't use Facebook. I think you might have her phone number. Don't say it on the air. Send it to me, so then I can call her.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, these are great. Tell us some more of these thoughts.
I'll let my patients down if I don't make time for them. I'll lose Gregg. He shouldn't have to do this.
He shouldn't have to, right?
He shouldn't have to do this.
Yeah.
I should be able to work. I think that's a good kind of snapshot of what's going on in my mind.
I've got nine of them. Did you put your how much you believe each one? I presume up.
Yeah.
Near 100 or
I forgot to do. I shouldn't
have to do this
have
alone.
to do this alone. 90. I can't handle parenting alone. 70. I shouldn't burden him. 70. I shouldn't share my feelings. 50. I need to be strong. 80. I'll let my patients down if I don't make time for them. 50. They've been super awesome and understanding. I'll lose Gregg. 50%.
What's the I'll let my patients down?
50%.
That was 50. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how much is I'll lose Gregg?
50.
Okay.
He shouldn't have to do this. 100%. And I should be able to work 50%.
And support the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either in that moment last night when you were right before you're falling asleep and really worrying about Gregg, I don't know if this is appropriate, but I'm kind of wondering if you weren't thinking 100% that you'll lose Gregg.
Right. Yeah, that's right. In that moment, 100%. Like, this is super dangerous. If he doesn't take a leave of absence, he's going to die.
Yeah.
But my rational mind knows it's 50%. Like I wish I could say it's 0. But I think it's like 50-50. I don't know. That's even terrifying to say. But yeah, I think you're right, Rhonda. In that moment last night when I was feeling all of these negative things, it was because I was telling myself, like, there's no way that this is going to end well. I was not putting a timeline on it or saying, like, you could get through this for a month and this will be okay and your family will be back together. In that moment, I was focused on the worst case scenario. And that's why I was suffering so much.
Now, here's another question. It might
Sure.
also sound a little ridiculous, but suppose Rhonda and David could, and me as well, could give you some help tonight, and you said, boy, that was really helpful talking to Rhonda and David. What kind of help might you be looking for?
I'd like you to make coronavirus go away. You could do that, right?
Yes, well, we can do that. That's easy. Anything else? Is that all?
Their family. Yeah, that's all. I would like to worry less. I wouldn't like to turn it all the way down, but like, that's a tough question because like part of me feels like I'm functioning okay. And then like these moments right now where I have like tightness in my chest and crying, part of it feels like healthy and normal, but I would
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to feel it less than I'm feeling it at times.
Okay. Oh, all right. We could almost kind of skip positive reframing or just do a very abbreviated version of it,
so.
And then go on to the magic dial and then see what we can do to dial it down. But just to say what are these negative thoughts and feelings show about you, Taylor, that's positive and awesome, and what are some benefits of these negative thoughts and feelings? I think we should make a little
yeah, we always regret it when we don't.
Yeah, list of the
sure.
of the positives. So before we think about dialing them down and how far we want to dial them down, let's just see. I know you're suffering horribly, but like what does your sadness say about you that's positive and awesome?
It shows how much I love Gregg and how worried I am about him and how much I love my kids and my family and how I just want us all back together again.
Yeah. Is that important?
Yeah, totally.
Is that powerful?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
absolutely.
And what are some other good things about, say, your anxiety?
I mean, it sure helps me keep us no one in, no one out, right? Like we don't leave the apartment. We don't see anyone that's sick.
Right.
It is a real threat. And so in most of these situations, it's pretty adaptable.
Sure.
So you're really, really vigilant about keeping yourself and your kids safe, and even Gregg as much as you can.
Yeah. You know, taking it serious, making sure he has all the PPE he needs, and
what's another wonderful thing about being sad and down?
I mean, I think there's something really beautiful about being like vulnerable and kind of feeling these emotions. It would sort of be weird if I was like prancing around happy and excited all the time, right? It is really sad, right? Like this doesn't happen in most people's lifetimes, and it's a lot. It's a lot to handle for anyone, whether you're suffering before or not.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm thinking back to like whenever I share these feelings with people, it's hard for me to share them because I don't want to like burden people on it. I feel like it's very like deep and dark because everyone wants to feel like it'll be okay, and it probably will be. But I do notice that when I do share those feelings, I feel very connected.
Oh, okay. So it also helps me connect
Yeah.
at a deep level, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now you feel bad 50%. I'm glad we're doing this list.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, what's positive about what's good about feeling bad?
I'm not living under a rock, right? Like,
Okay.
most people are feeling bad, or I don't know.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts about that one? I don't know that I resonate with like that it's awesome to feel bad, but there's definitely some realism there.
Yeah. So it shows how realistic you can face this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. And now you're also feeling lonely, alone, and abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
What could 90%? What could possibly be good about those feelings?
I mean, I'm a very social person. I love to be around my family. I love to be around my friends. I love to be around Gregg. So it totally makes sense to feel lonely in this time. It kind of shows my connection, and I thrive off my relationships with other people. I think that's really great, something that I really like about myself.
Absolutely. How about you're feeling hopeless and despairing? What are some wonderful things about feeling hopeless and despairing? It sounds so ridiculous to say that.
What's good about feeling hopeless? Well, I surely won't be disappointed. So,
Yeah. Well, is there something to be said there?
Yeah, realism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yes, and that it protects from disappointment. Do you think there's some value there?
Yeah, not much, but definitely like I don't want to be like everything's fine, everything's going to be great, and like careless and reckless with that, right? So it's kind of protective or good to imagine the worst case, and then
Yes, and then also the despair again shows your passion for life,
right. Mm-hmm.
and for what you're afraid of losing.
Absolutely.
How about the frustration? What's good about being frustrated and stuck 100%?
I mean, the most value to me that speaks to is like I thrive on problem solving and like figuring out a way to solve a problem, or I'm just always looking how to make things easier or better for other people. And I just feel like I can't do that in this place.
Yeah.
I feel like that really speaks to the things that I thrive on and want to accomplish.
Yeah, and the frustration shows you haven't given up on those goals.
Yeah.
And then how about the I don't remember all the anger words you
All
said.
of them.
All of them at 100%.
Yeah.
And what's beautiful and awesome about being angry?
And I think it shows like my passion and realism, and also I want to protect Gregg. Like I'm angry, he has to work through this. I just want to kind of protect him and keep him in a bubble and not let him suffer or get hurt or sick or.
Yeah, like a mama lion protecting the cubs, right? Or
and I wonder if that the anger
poor kiddos too, the kids too. I don't want them to have to suffer at all. So I just feel there's a lot of injustice that's been done, or I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but not, just wish we kind of acted on this sooner and wish we were not at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Taylor, you had said that you wish that you could be the one that's at work and supporting your family. I wonder if the anger kind of gives you that energy and passion to do that or think about that.
I think what I meant for that is like, I love working, and for our family, made the choice to kind of work less to be around for the kids. But if I could, I'd love for Gregg to just quit and be safe, right? And I would kind of take care of the family and work more. You know, I know it's a bit irrational, but I just really want to protect him.
Yeah.
So, given that there is a lot of beauty and positivity in these emotions, if you could dial the sadness down, what would be an ideal level?
Yeah, probably down to like what it is during the day, where I'm not like bawling. Probably like 50.
50, sure. And how about the anxiety and the panic? That's 100. What would be your goal there?
Probably 20.
Oh, great. Okay. And you're feeling bad, 50. How bad would you want to feel?
10.
And then you're feeling abandoned, alone, and lonely, 90. How alone would you want to be feeling, say, tonight?
Right, like given the facts of the situation.
Yeah, say at the end of our session.
Probably like 20. I mean,
Sure.
Gregg's still here. Like, we could still talk. I still have friends and family and people
Sure.
to connect with.
How hopeless and despairing?
25.
Okay, great. And how frustrated and stuck?
Probably like 5. I really don't want to feel that way.
Oh, awesome.
I'd like to embrace this as much as I can.
And how angry?
Oh, that's a tough one. Like, I don't want to feel angry, but I also feel so
Angry.
Yeah, I feel so valid.
Well, you can keep it at 100 if you want.
No, I don't think I want to keep it that high. I'm gonna hang on to like 45, 50.
50. Okay, good enough. Now, this may be a tiny little teaching point, and maybe somewhat trivial, but what we've done here is not insignificant, because we're saying even in light of horrific and real circumstances, one can still make a decision and about how intense you want your feelings to be. Now we'll see if we can lower them somewhat and maybe get them down to these levels.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an active process that a person can do, so you're not entirely the victim, feeling the victim of forces beyond your control.
Right.
Which is not to take away at all the horribleness of what's really going on.
Right.
Now, which of these 9 negative thoughts, Taylor, would you want to focus on first? They're all really excellent.
I think the one that I struggle the most with is I shouldn't share my feelings.
That was the exact one I had my eye on here.
Okay.
Let's identify the distortions in that thought first.
Well, there's surely should statements.
Mm-hmm. And tell us why that's a should statement. It's kind of obvious, but some of the people who are listening might not understand about should statements.
Yeah, well, there's no rule that says I can't share my feelings. I feel like I shouldn't burden Gregg with them, but we're married, and for better or for worse, right? Like, I'm still allowed to share my feelings. So there's no rules against that. So there's no reason to tell myself that I shouldn't do that.
So is what you just said true?
That I shouldn't.
There's no rules against sharing my feelings.
There sure feels like there are. Like, I should be strong and tough and like army wife-esque, but I don't. I haven't come across those yet. Those written rules about sharing feelings.
Okay.
I think it's still legal in New York. I'm not
okay.
sure. I'm not sure about it in California.
It's okay to share my feelings.
Yeah.
How much do you believe that between 0 and 100?
I believe it 100%.
Uh-huh. Now, how much do you believe, I may be jumping in too quick here, but how much do you believe I shouldn't share my feelings?
Probably there's still like I probably still believe it like 28%. There's this
Okay,
feeling of
put a
like,
line through the 50, and in the same column, the percent now, put 20. It dropped to 20 really
yeah, quickly,
rapidly.
yeah.
Now, what are some more distortions in that thought? I shouldn't share my feelings.
Mind reading.
Mm-hmm. And why is it mind reading? That's a really good call.
Because I'm assuming that he'll be upset to hear it, or that it'll be too much for him to handle.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible, but it's not a good. There's no hard data to support that.
Oh, okay.
Or that, I guess part of that is like he'll be mad that I'm vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's mind reading. That's a good call. What any other distortions?
Definitely some mental filter there.
Well, tell us why. That's a really interesting thing that you just said.
Well, there I'm focusing on the fact that it's going to be a burden. Like part of this is that it'll be a burden. It'll be too much for him to handle. That it's not a good thing to share my feelings, but really sharing them could bring us closer together, could provide emotional relief, could help him better understand how I'm feeling.
Is what you just said correct?
Yes.
Could you write that in the right-hand column?
Sure.
It could bring us closer to get together. Is that true?
Yeah.
How true is that between 0 and 100?
100.
100. Okay. I saw a couple other distortions. I'll just mention them. Do you see them, or?
I mean, for me, there's definitely like self-blame.
Yeah,
there.
huge. Tell us why it's self-blame.
Well, I think I'm being very human in struggling with this, right? Like I'm not to blame for feeling upset by coronavirus that my husband is off, fighting this in hospitals and risking his life, and that I'm alone with my kids. Like it makes total sense.
Is that true, what you just said?
Yeah.
I'm human to be struggling, given the circumstances. My husband's off at war and so forth. How much do you believe that?
100%.
100%. And now, how much do you believe I shouldn't share my feelings?
We're getting there. 10%.
10.
Yeah.
Now, is 10 low enough? Or should we try to crush it to 0, or is maybe 10 is good enough on that one?
I think we should crush this one. I think this is like, even though I believed it the least of most of the thoughts, I think it's kind of where I'm
kind of a key one.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the other ones I could fight back on my own.
Mm-hmm. Another distortion I saw is emotional reasoning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like I shouldn't have these feelings. I shouldn't share these feelings. Right. Therefore I shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you telling me, Taylor, then that it's okay for me to have these feelings and to share them?
Yes.
But what if it upsets, my husband, and like maybe he can't handle it?
Yeah, I mean, he might not be able to handle it. He is dealing with a lot too, and I'm trying to support him through that. And we have no experience or nothing to reflect on about how to get through coronavirus as a family. And if that means oversharing sometimes or just kind of sharing, then that might be the process I need to go to kind of get through this.
That I need to go to,
that
right?
Yeah.
Is that true? That I'm confused here, Taylor. Are you saying it's okay to share my feelings, or it's better for me not to?
It's better to share your feelings.
Okay, and again, tell me why, because it might upset Gregg if I...
Yeah, there's probably a lot of things right now that are going to upset Gregg because he's going through something horrific, but my feelings matter and matter to him, and he would want to know them. He wouldn't want me to be
Is
separate.
that true, or are you just bullshitting me?
It's very true.
Would you write that down? My
Yes.
feelings matter to him.
Mm-hmm.
And how true is that?
100%.
So you're saying it would be okay for me to share my feelings because I have a right to feel this way. It's human. He's my husband. It could bring us closer together, and that my feelings matter to him, and that I don't need to be protecting him from.
Right.
And that's true.
Yes. I will say it's probably, I think it's 5%. And I actually think that's the lowest that I need to go. Cause I do think there's like times to share, right? Like he is going through a lot, and I want to support him just like he would support me. So like if he's freaking out or going through a really hard time, that might not be the right time to be like, and this is awful for me. But like if he's had a few days off and is refreshed a little bit, it could be my time to kind of fall apart a little bit and not have it all together.
Yeah,
I do most of the time.
Yeah, I love that 5%. It's just a little piece of thoughtfulness.
Yeah, and that was really helpful to talk through, because I do feel, and I'm sure a lot of other people that have husbands and wives or partners going through this do feel like they need to be strong. And I think maybe I'm thinking about it wrong, but I think we do need to be at some point, right? Like if he calls me from work stressed, I don't want to just be falling apart and crying and like, oh my God, you're going to die too. I totally agree. Like that wouldn't be particularly helpful.
So you're saying one little piece of wisdom that you're generating here for all of us is that in this era of intense fear and suffering and sadness, it's okay to be strong and to love one's children, to love one's husband or one's wife or whatever, and to try to do things for them and to support them. And that it can also be strong to be vulnerable and cry and to share feelings so as to allow us to be closer together in the darkness, and that there's a beauty in that. Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Now, do you want to go into an externalization of voices, a more aggressive thing, or you want to stick with the gentle? We do?
Yeah.
Okay. So, what's Rhonda's name?
Taylor.
And what's David's name?
Taylor.
And what's Taylor's name?
Taylor.
Okay. So you be the self-loving Taylor, and we're going to be the kind of negative, stern Taylor that gives you a lot of upsetting messages. And I'll start it off, and then I'll let Rhonda take over, and we'll kind of do tag team. So I'll start the one you just did, and I'll do one more, and then over to you, Rhonda. I'm that negative voice in your brain, Taylor, and I just want you to remember that you shouldn't share your feelings.
Well, that's preposterous and totally not true. There's times to share it, but I think that's insane to say that someone going through something like this can just boil up all their emotions. That sounds like a recipe for a mental breakdown, and that it's totally okay to share your feelings, and that it will likely bring us closer, even if it is painful. And my feelings matter. There's probably times where it might not be the best time to share it. I want to be strong and be there for my kids and for Gregg, but I'm allowed to suffer too and express that.
Great. Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Yeah, I thought that was huge. Why don't I'll give you the next one, Rhonda.
Okay, Taylor, but you really shouldn't have to do this all alone.
Yeah, I mean, it would really be great if Gregg was home with me. A lot of other families have both parents home going through this, and I love him, so it would be great to have him there. And I wish I didn't have to do this alone, but I can get through this, and hopefully we'll all be together on the other side.
And who won that?
A draw.
A draw.
So I think I won it, but not
very
big. It didn't feel that.
Do a role reversal.
Taylor, you shouldn't have to do this alone.
Well, I wish I didn't have to do it alone, but the reality is that I do, and doing it alone is protecting everyone in my family, myself, my kids, my husband. And there are times I break down because I am alone and I'm lonely and feeling sad. And there are times when I can rise up and manage it.
Mm-hmm. That was good. I like that.
Shall we do it back to you?
Yes.
Well, who won?
Who won that one?
You did.
Big or small?
Big, but not huge.
Not huge.
Okay.
David, do you want to try?
Yeah.
David, let's have you
Sure,
try.
I'll be the negative, and then you can be the positive. I had suggested going to I need to be strong and tough first as a follow-up to the previous thought. This is a good one. Can I just go to the other one and then we'll come to the one that you're working on with Rhonda?
Sure.
You need to be strong and tough.
I am strong and tough.
Okay, who won?
I won that one.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Big.
Okay, try a role reversal.
Yeah. You need to be strong.
No, there's only one thing I need to do.
What's that?
Stop listening to your bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't need to be strong and tough. I am very strong and tough, but I can also be very sad and tearful, and I have a right to all of my emotions.
Yeah.
Who won?
You did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. How did I win huge?
The last part of you have the right to all of your emotions really resonated with me. I'm usually pretty strong and can handle a lot, and I kind of pride myself on that. But I do know I'm human and totally fine to admit defeat, and that this is really, you don't train for this. You kind of figure it out. There's no how to survive coronavirus at home while your husband's away book that I could buy on Amazon yet. So
yeah. So have we
being as strong as I can be?
Have we blown this one out of the water?
Yeah.
Okay, now let's come up to this other one. Yeah, but you shouldn't have to do this alone.
I'm not alone. I'm not doing this the way that I would like to. I'd prefer if my husband was at home and not at risk. This is a hard one. I have a lot of friends and family that have supported me and have reached out. I'm here with my kids. I'm not alone, and Gregg is still here. And it's kind of a blessing actually to just be able to pause in this world and not have to go to activities and not do anything. So actually I'm sort of as connected as I have been to my kids in a really long time. So while not having Gregg here is a huge loss. It's been really awesome to bond with my kids and have dance parties and tell stories. And we've made about 10 different Shutterfly photo albums about our Corona break. So there have been really great connections and times, and I'm not alone.
Okay, who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
I'd say big. It was
Big
one
plus, but not huge.
Yeah,
Universal.
yeah. It was like big plus.
Yeah, we're moving up.
Yeah,
the
we're moving
world
up.
here. You hit me with it now.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you shouldn't have to do this alone.
In a way, that would be just terrific. That Gregg could at least come home every night, and I could hug him and love him. But if there's one thing that being alone has taught me, gift is just to show me just how profound my love for Gregg is. And I guess in a way I'm lucky to have a partner that I love so profoundly, and I love my children too, and this is a chance to be close to them. But yes, it would just be awesome if we didn't have to go through this alone, and that the sacrifice that I'm making is to try to protect my family, and I take a lot of pride in that as well.
It was good. So it was a big, not a huge.
Maybe
I'll try it. It was a big one. Big one.
Taylor, you shouldn't have to do this alone.
It would be awesome not to do this alone, but I don't really know what alone means. I'm very much not alone. Sometimes I actually wish I was a little bit more alone. I've had 3 kids around me all day long, then see patients at night and try to talk to friends and family after that. So actually, sometimes I feel like it would be nice to be a little bit more alone. I do feel a hole in my heart a little bit that Gregg's not here and worry about him, but I'm definitely not alone.
Okay. Who won that one?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
That was huge for me.
Oh, great, because I got another version to huge.
Oh yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, hit me with it.
You shouldn't have to do this alone.
Yeah, this really sucks.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, I surely believe that 100%.
Yeah, just like acceptance.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a combination of those two. Like, this sucks. Like, no one would ever hope for this or want this, but.
Absolutely. So on that one, I shouldn't have to do this alone. We could just lower that one from 90 to 50 or to
I think
30. We don't need to smash that to 0. Because it's kind of a fact. The only distortion is the should.
Right. Yeah.
But the rest of it's absolutely true. But you beat me on those 3. But I have one that you can't beat me on, and that's that you can't handle parenting alone.
Parenting is really hard no matter how you do it. And Gregg's a lot of weekends, and I am with my kids a lot alone. But I don't really know what alone means. Like, Gregg still FaceTimes and talks to them, and we're all in this together. I am a child psychologist. I think we're known to mess up our children, but also I feel like I'm a pretty good parent. So I do actually feel equipped to handle all of them. We've definitely had a few moments over the past few weeks, but it's been great. I've been proud of my parenting and really getting to know and connect with them. I don't see them that much during the week when I do work so much. So it's kind of sweet to be here with them.
Who won?
I won that one.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge or gargantuan?
Gargantuan.
Yeah, I thought you were super strong on that one. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Your turn, Rhonda.
Well, I think, Taylor, you're going to let your patients down if you don't make time for them.
I'm so fortunate. My patients rock. And I feel grateful that I've been able to be open with them. I'm sure many of them will be listening to this podcast, so thanks, guys. But they've been very honest with me with their needs. I've done the best I can to accommodate. I think I'm doing the best that anyone would be doing with this. I have awesome colleagues at Feeling Good Institute in New York, who a few patients that needed to be seen extra are getting lots of support from them. So thank you to FGI New York for helping me out there. But most of my patients I won't let down. I don't think I will let my patients down. And if I do, I'm human. And if I don't take care of myself, I'm no good to them anyway.
Mm. Who won that?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
I think that was a huge one.
Yeah,
it sounded
was
huge
really,
to me. It
it
definitely
was
sounded
awesome.
huge.
But it's my turn again, and I just want to remind you that you shouldn't burden Gregg.
Yeah, I mean, he is really burdened right now. I think my feelings would just be a drop in the bucket. So I don't really know I don't really know if I can add to his burden much. I think coronavirus is burdening him enough. So I could burden him all I want because it's just a drop in the bucket compared to what coronavirus is doing.
Who won?
I won that one, but the humor, I was trying out some humor, but fell a little flat for me, I think.
Or try role reversal.
You shouldn't burden him.
That's what love is all about. Sometimes we have burdens and we share them with each other. And I think he needs me, and he needs me to be real. He needs my support. He needs my vulnerability. Burdening him is not my problem.
That was good. I think the one part that'll take it over the top is I do feel, I think I mentioned this before, that there are times where I shouldn't burden him. Like, I think I do need to, I'm trying to learn of like how much to push him and how much he needs to support me. And I think there are times where I need to let him rest and recover. And there's times where he needs to be there for me. And it's a balancing act.
Beautiful. Who won?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
You, right. And that thought I shouldn't burden him is so, that's terrible, actually. It's like we're not supposed to be in love. We're not supposed to be real. We're not supposed to connect.
Right.
Now it's your turn, Rhonda.
Okay. Taylor, I feel really bad about saying this, but you might lose Gregg.
It's a hard one to talk back to. I won't. He's going to be okay.
Who won that?
Not me.
I had a patient in Philadelphia who had extremely severe borderline personality disorder and severe depression. And she had, prior to seeing me, she would just mutilate herself, and multiple suicide attempts, and ripping into her flesh with razor blades and stuff, and requiring multiple surgeries for these self-mutilations. And one day I came to my office, and there was a note, I remember it was a Friday or a Monday, and it said, "Dear Dr. Burns, I've decided to commit suicide, and you won't be able to find me because I've left my apartment, and I'm at a undisclosed location, stuff like that." And I really freaked out, and because she was a huge suicide risk, and I felt totally helpless and like in 100% panic, and had nothing to do that I could think of to escape from this incredible agony. And so I asked Dr. Beck, told him, "Here's what's happened, and I'm just in mental hell, and I'm telling myself she could be dead. She's probably dead." And then he says, "Well, she's made a lot of suicide attempts in the past that were not completed suicides." He says, "You have every right just to assume she's alive until proven otherwise, and then you won't be upset about it." And I said, "I have a right to make that assumption?" He says, "Absolutely, you're going to be in hell otherwise."
Yep.
So I just told myself, well, I think I'm just going to assume that she's alive. And sure enough, the next day she called me and wanted to come in for a session, and we had a really great session. So I think that your way of thinking about it there, sounds pretty good to me. We don't know what's going to happen. Do you have evidence that there's a 50% chance that he's going to die?
No, I have no evidence. I know that it looks bad, and emergency room doctors that have been young and healthy have died. But we have good odds, right? He should be okay. And at least that's what I need to choose to, like, I don't think it's like a crazy thought. I don't think it's like completely irrational, but I definitely think I'm choosing, like, I have control over how I want to feel about it. And I can, and I could look at the positive, and he's super careful and smart, and luckily works at a hospital that has PPE. So there's a good chance he will be safe. And if I don't have control over the outcome, I might as well choose to believe that he'll be fine.
That sounds good enough to me.
Yeah, I think that's as good as it's going to get.
Yeah. So hit me with it.
You'll lose Gregg.
Well, all husbands and wives lose each other eventually, unless they die in a plane crash together. But I have no evidence that he's going to die. He is in danger, but he's a smart guy. He's a careful guy, and the odds are really in our favor. And so I'm going to love him and believe that he's going to be fine, and just look forward to that day when we can just hug each other. And probably be a year from now, maybe before that happens, but we'll get our vaccinations, and we'll be safe. And I'm just not going to let you be making me miserable.
Yeah.
Who won?
You did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge.
Huge. Okay. You want to try it?
Sure. Yeah, I didn't like that year part that you threw in there.
The which part?
The year, that it might be a year.
Well, maybe it'll be this summer, I don't think we'll get the vaccination for a year, but of course he could get the corona, then he'd probably survive too, and then he'd be immune.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't get it from work. The biggest concern is if he gets a high viral load from work, but we're just going to believe he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing I can control. There's so much that we can't control.
Okay. He shouldn't have to do this.
It would be nice if he didn't have to. He didn't sign up for this. I think about this a lot. Soldiers sign up to go to war. But this is but he's choosing to do this right now. And it's scary and overwhelming, but I'm going to choose to believe that he'll be okay.
Try a role reversal, unless you thought that was huge.
No, I didn't.
Try a role reversal.
He shouldn't have to do this.
He doesn't, and I'm proud of him for the sacrifice he's making. He's a true hero, and I just love him with all my heart.
I think I'm a little conflicted on. I kind of wish he wouldn't be working. So that one was a little hard.
Well, I really wish he didn't have to do this. And
yeah, I really wish he didn't have to do this. Or it would be nice if he was at home with me, but he is doing it. And I can choose to feel really worried or scared about it, or kind of accept it right now.
Suppose you had the chance to press a magic button and then he would suddenly resign. Would you want that?
Yes.
You do?
Sort of. Yeah, I do.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean,
he'd be a different guy.
Resign and him be okay with it, which is not true. And I think honoring who he is and what he stands for, that wouldn't lead him to be fulfilled. And
is that why you love him?
What?
Is that part of why you love him?
Yeah. But I think the terror and not wanting to lose him makes me want to just run away and not to confront him.
I'll leave the last one to you, Rhonda.
Well, I think I think we've already defeated part of this. Taylor, you should be able to work.
I love working. It energizes me and keeps me focused, and I love helping my patients and being productive. I'm young. I have a lot of years to work, so I'll get to all those patients and helping them when I can. I'm a little bit addicted to working. Like, I really love it and feel energized, but I also really love my family, and I need to cut back for now. And I'm fortunate that I'm able to do that.
Who won that?
I did.
Big or small?
Big.
Big or huge?
Huge. I'll say, if I can't say huge, but resoundingly, I'll say big.
Is that good enough on that one?
Yeah, I think so. I do love working, so I would like to be able to work, right? So I don't think there's so much of a distortion. Like, I don't need to bring that down to 0. Like, I should be able to work. I like to work. That's why I work. So, and I'd like to be able to do that right now. So, but it's definitely I feel less attached to it.
There's this one last loose end that I wanted to tie up, and I probably have the wrong idea, but you would really want to say to people, my husband's an ER physician, intensive care unit physician, but he's not working because he didn't want to expose himself to the risk of getting the virus, so he quit.
No, I wouldn't want to say that.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I run that through my head all the time, that I just want him not to, but then when I actually say it, it seems crazy.
Yeah. Is that helpful?
It is. It's just such a love for him and wanting him to be there for us, and exaggerating his, choosing to believe his risk. I don't think I'm exaggerating it. It is a real risk, but given the situation, I have a choice of how I want to think about it.
Yeah. And that's the man who you love.
Yep.
Incredibly.
Yes.
So let's see how you're doing right now. Are there any loose ends from any of these, or?
Let me look through. No, I think we're good.
Okay. So how sad, blue, depressed, down are you feeling at this moment?
Not very. I was really down when we first started. 15.
Okay, put a 15 in the after column. How frightened are you feeling? Anxious, worried, nervous, scared?
Right now, not at all.
0.
Yeah,
How bad are you feeling right now?
not at all.
0. How burdened, alone, and lonely are you feeling?
Well, given that I'm in my home office staring at an empty side of the bed, I'm still feeling a little bit alone,
Sure.
because I know I'll be getting into my bed soon alone, but not particularly bothered by it. So 20.
Good. Um, and I don't think we'd want that to go any lower than 20.
No.
And hopeless and despairing?
20.
20, great. Went from 90 to 20. How frustrated and stuck? That was 100.
How frustrated and stuck. 10.
10, great. And how angry, mad, resentful, etc.? That was 100.
Like 50, 55, 55.
55. So you pretty much
Yeah.
exceeded or achieved all
Yeah.
of your goals. What was the most healing part of this for you, would you say, Taylor?
Um, I think really the connection and to be able to talk through these thoughts. And I think really the breakthrough with feeling okay, I think the thought, even though I didn't believe it that much, but that brought the most suffering was like, I shouldn't share my feelings. And so this was an example of I should share my feelings. And this was really helpful in that sense.
Well, I certainly feel a lot closer to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know how our podcast listeners will feel. We'll hear from them, but
Sure.
I can't help but think that this would be helpful to see that it's possible to get dramatic changes in how you feel, even in the light of external circumstances that are
Absolutely.
really horrific, seem
Whew.
impossible and overwhelming. And surprisingly, the feeling that remained most elevated went from 100 to 55. Your goal on that one was to go from 100 to 50 was anger, and that's the
Yeah.
one that you wanted to kind of hold on to. How do you explain that?
I just feel like this sucks that I'm just like angry at coronavirus. So
Yeah, right.
feels like, I don't know, feels appropriate. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know
maybe anger
anyone.
directed in other directions seems appropriate too, but we're not political on this podcast, so we will
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah.
I think a
And
lot of us are feeling some intense anger. I know I am.
yeah. And I don't think it's maladaptive. Like, I'm not stewing in it so much, but I think it feels really valid.
Well, we probably need to bring this thing
Well,
up
can
the
I say
yeah,
one thing?
yeah.
I don't really know, Taylor and I don't really know each other.
Oh, you don't? I didn't
No,
know that.
no, not
Oh,
very much. She had already moved to New York by the time I got involved with the Feeling Good community. And I want to say too, Taylor, it's just been really an honor to go through this process with you for you as an individual, but listening to you talk about how much you love your family, your husband and your children.
Mm.
I think that, it's, it makes me think about my family and my husband
Yeah.
and it's, it brings tears to my eyes to think of the depth of the love that you have for him. And then it's, I don't want to be, say these pat sentences, but it really has been an honor to be a part of this and to listen to, the depth of your emotions.
Thanks, Rhonda. I appreciate that. It's been great sharing them with you. And I as painful and difficult as this time is, I think it will shape our history for the best. Like, I really enjoyed kind of slowing down and having family time and kind of focusing on the things that we can control. And always my passion is like helping families and children. So really just wanting to try to also like help people slow down and stay present with their families, try to yell less, right? Like your kids will, hold on to those feelings of how they felt while they were stuck at home with you. And it's really hard to be home without my husband, but I'm really just trying to create special projects and good experiences, and all these kids will survive academically. So just, this is a really challenging time, but trying to support one another and getting through it.
Mm-hmm.
It took a lot of courage to open up and make yourself so vulnerable, I would think.
Yeah.
Gregg is definitely unlucky in having to work on the front lines. He's very lucky to have a fabulous career and be a fabulous physician, but he's also very lucky in one other regard.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Rhonda?
Yes, exactly. He is. He's very, very lucky to have you as his wife.
Yeah. Thank
And
you
to,
so much.
And to have you, helm the family while he's gone.
Yeah. Thank you. I think these superheroes on the front line really deserve all the love and respect for all the work that they're doing. I don't know if you guys, there's just one project that I feel really passionate about. I don't know if it's okay to share, but the Feeling Good Foundation is supporting healthcare workers and those on the front line by providing free high quality TEAM-CBT to all those providers, delivering David's tools and techniques free of charge to those on the front line with our providers at the Feeling Good Institute. So I just feel, as I'm dealing with my own struggles and supporting Gregg, I'm just so grateful that a lot of these other first responders and people that are out there risking their lives can get this type of help that I've gotten from you here tonight, David. Like, this has been such a gift to heal with you, and I miss our time together in California where I got a lot more of this.
And people who want to learn more about that can go to the website for the Feeling Good Foundation.
Right. It's feelinggood.foundation, and then you can learn all about it.
Yeah, that's a beautiful webpage. I have one last little closing thing that popped into my brain. It'll probably sound ridiculous, but I went to Amherst College, and we had a lecture on the poetry of Emily Dickinson, who lived in Amherst. And she just lived right, just a block or so from the college. And I had thought she was a silly poet with, Christmas card jingles and stuff like that, or whatever. And then the teacher pointed out just how majestic and radical her poetry was, and how really beautiful. And it was about the poet, about loss. It was the poetry of loss. She went to Mount Holyoke College, and they had to register as a Christian, a non-Christian with hope, or a non-Christian without hope. And she registered as a non-Christian without hope. And they gave her 1 semester to change her status. She's the only person that ever chose that status. And when she refused to change it, then they kicked her out.
Wow.
And then she lived in Amherst and fell in love with some minister. And then he moved to California, I guess, out of a sense of shame or something like that. And she really lived her life alone. And the theme of her poetry is that you cannot gain except through loss. And the idea is that you can't taste the nectar until it's not available to you. And once I saw that, I used to just read her poems, and I bought this set of all of her poems and all of her rough drafts. And we used to go and visit her grave, and then I would read her poems and really see what she was trying to say, and cry. Once I even went to her house, and they let me in and let me look around, and I found a little poem on a slip of paper that she'd written. But she had a typical poem, like a love poem, is rowing in Eden. Ah, the sea, might I but moor tonight in thee. And it was just really such a beautiful message, and in the way we can see that you've temporarily lost your husband, your Gregg, and yet your love, your taste, has become overwhelming. That you're experiencing. I don't mean to minimize it, but that you're experiencing the most incredible love for him, and it's just a beautiful thing, and makes me feel so close to you. And I wish you were out here and we could go hiking
Me
some
too.
more, like we did every Sunday for 2
Yeah.
years or more when you were living out here and going to the Tuesday group. We really miss you like crazy.
Yeah, would be wonderful. Miss being there.
Now would be a good time for a virtual hug.
Yeah.
Hugging it. I feel all the love. Thank you for having me on the show, Rhonda. And
Taylor, thank you so much for the courage to share all this with us.
Sure. My pleasure.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you
Take
to
care.
all of our listeners for all of your
Yes.
wonderful support.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been another episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, visit Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you will find the show notes for this episode under the podcast page. You will also find archives of previous episodes and many resources for therapists and non-therapists. We welcome your comments and questions. If you want to support the show, please share the podcast with people who might benefit from it. You could also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. The theme music is Gypsy Jazz in Paris, 1935, composed and performed by Brett Van Donsel. I am your host, Rhonda Borowski. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I invite you to join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.